My father removed me from his will on a Tuesday afternoon, called me into his study, slid a piece of paper across the desk, and said, "I've made my decision. Everything goes to your stepbrother Marcus. You've made your choices. Now live with them." I was 26 years old. I had just been fired from my job. I had $1,100 in my account, and the man who was supposed to be my father had just looked me in the eyes and written me out of his life with a signature. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I didn't argue. I picked up that piece of paper. I read every word. I put it back down on his desk. And I said, "Okay, Dad, I hope the company treats you well." He frowned. "What does that mean?" I just smiled, stood up, and walked out of his office for the very last time. 8 years later, I walked back into that same building. Not as his daughter, as the new owner. My name is Raina, and before I tell you what I built, let me tell you what I came from. My parents divorced when I was 5. Clean split, they called it. What it actually meant was, Mom got me every weekday, Dad got me every other weekend. And every other weekend, I spent 2 days trying to be enough for a man who had already started building his next family. Dad remarried when I was 8. Her name was Carol. She was fine, perfectly fine, polite in that careful way people are when they don't actually like you but want to appear like they do. And then came Marcus, Carol's son from her first marriage. 2 years older than me, louder than me, more comfortable in that house than I ever was. From day one, Marcus was the son my father never had. They watched football together. They went fishing together. Dad coached his baseball team. Dad showed up to every single one of his games. My school recitals, Dad came twice in 10 years. Both times he left early. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was fine. I buried myself in books, in grades, in being so academically perfect that someone, anyone, would have to notice. Dad noticed. Once. "You're smart," he told me when I was 15, after I won a regional science competition. "You'll be fine on your own. You don't need much from me." He meant it as a compliment. I understood it as a dismissal. "You don't need much from me." Those 7 words became the sentence I spent the next decade trying to prove wrong, and then trying to prove irrelevant. My father worked for Hargrove and Associates, a mid-sized manufacturing supply company based in our city. He'd been there for 20 years. Started as a floor supervisor, worked his way up to operations director. He was proud of that company the way some men are proud of their own businesses. He talked about it at every dinner. He wore their jacket on weekends. He genuinely believed that his loyalty to Hargrove was his greatest achievement. The owner, a man named Gerald Hargrove, was my father's hero. He talked about Gerald the way people talk about legends. I grew up hearing about Hargrove and Associates the way other kids heard bedtime stories. What I didn't know then, what I filed away in the back of my mind without realizing its importance, was every single detail Dad ever mentioned. The company's client list, its supply chain weaknesses, its expansion failures, its internal politics, its aging infrastructure. I wasn't paying attention on purpose. I was just a kid who desperately wanted her father to talk to her instead of at her. But my brain remembered everything. Every single thing. After college, I got a job at a logistics firm downtown. Good salary. Good prospects. I was good at it. Naturally good. The way you're good at things when you've been listening and absorbing information your whole life just to have something to talk to your father about. I visited Dad every few months. Dinners that felt like business meetings. Conversations that stayed surface level. Marcus was always there, louder, more comfortable, more son-like. When I was 24, I made a mistake at work. A significant one. I trusted the wrong colleague with sensitive client information. It leaked. The client pulled out. My boss, who had never particularly liked me, used it as his opportunity. I was let go on a Friday afternoon with 2 weeks severance and a handshake. I called Dad that evening. Not for money. Just I don't know. I think part of me still believed that in a real crisis, a father shows up. He listened to the whole story, and then he said, "Raina, you've always been careless with trust. I've seen this pattern your whole life. You need to be more careful about who you let close. Not, are you okay? Not, what do you need? Not, I'm sorry this happened. Pattern. Careless. More careful." 2 weeks later, he called me to come to his study. Slid the paper across the desk. Removed from the will. Everything to Marcus. His reason. Marcus has shown more commitment to this family. He's dependable. He has a plan. I need to know my estate goes somewhere stable. I was being punished for losing a job, for being human, for one mistake. Meanwhile, Marcus, who had borrowed $40,000 from Dad over 5 years and repaid exactly 0 of it, was dependable. I picked up that paper. Read every word. Put it back down. Okay, Dad. I hope the company treats you well. And I walked out. I want to be honest with you about what came next. Because it wasn't a movie montage. It wasn't clean or fast or inspiring in the moment. It was hard. Genuinely, grindingly hard. I spent 3 months unemployed, ate through my savings, moved into a cheaper apartment, applied to 62 jobs, got 11 interviews, 3 offers, all significantly below my previous salary. I took the best one, a small logistics consulting firm. Tiny team, modest pay, but the founder, a woman named Patricia, she saw something in me. She gave me responsibility fast. She trusted me to rebuild what I'd broken in my previous role. I worked like my life depended on it, because in every way that mattered, it did. Within a year, I was her right hand. Within 2 years, I was running our largest client accounts. Within 3 years, Patricia sat me down and said, "I want to bring you in as a partner." I said yes before she finished the sentence. We grew that firm quietly and methodically. No flashy press releases. No social media presence. Just results. Client after client. Contract after contract. And all along, in the back of my mind, those dinner table conversations about Hargrove and Associates. The weaknesses. The aging infrastructure. The failed expansions. Because here is what Dad never knew he was teaching me. He was teaching me exactly how to take apart a company like Hargrove and put it back together. In year 6 of our firm's growth, we started doing acquisition consulting, helping investors identify undervalued manufacturing and logistics companies worth buying. The first name on my personal research list, Hargrove and Associates. I want to be very clear. This was not purely revenge. This was business. Because everything Dad had told me over 20 years of dinner table conversations had painted a perfect picture of a company that was significantly undervalued, poorly modernized, and sitting on client relationships and infrastructure that, with the right management, could be worth 3 times what it currently was. Gerald Hargrove was 71 years old. His son had no interest in the business. He had been quietly looking for an exit for 2 years. We approached through a third party initially. Standard acquisition process, multiple rounds of due diligence, financials, operations review, staff assessment. During the staff assessment phase, I saw his name in the organizational chart. Raymond Foster, operations director, 28 years with the company. My father, he had no idea who was buying. That was intentional. The deal closed on a Thursday. I became majority owner and CEO of Hargrove and Associates, the company my father had devoted 20 years of his life to at 34 years old. I sat in Gerald Hargrove's old office, my office now, and looked at the city through the floor-to-ceiling windows. And then I picked up the phone and called my assistant. "Please schedule a full staff meeting for Monday morning," I said. "I'll be introducing myself to the team." I dressed carefully that Monday, not to impress. To be clear, dark blazer, simple but precise, hair back. No jewelry except my grandmother's ring, the one person in my family who had always believed in me. The conference room held about 60 people. Department heads, senior staff, long-term employees. I walked in, stood at the front, and scanned the room. 3rd row, left side. My father. He was looking down at his notepad when I walked in. When he looked up, the sequence of expressions on his face was something I will remember for the rest of my life. Confusion first, then recognition, then the color draining from his face completely. I held eye contact for exactly 2 seconds. Then I looked at the full room and smiled. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Raina Foster. I'm the new owner and CEO of Hargrove and Associates. I want to start by saying I have enormous respect for what this team has built over the past 40 years. My intention is not to dismantle. My intention is to grow. Together." Professional applause. Cautious optimism, the normal response to a new owner, except for my father, who sat completely still, pale, silent, staring. After the meeting, people filed out. I shook hands, introduced myself, was warm and genuine with every single person. My father waited until the room was almost empty. Then he approached slowly. Raina. Raymond, I said, using his first name deliberately. Professionally. He flinched. I didn't know, he said. I had no idea it was you. I know, I said simply. What does this mean? For my position. And here, right here was the moment I had thought about during 8 years of early mornings and late nights and hard choices and harder days. I took a breath, and I chose carefully. I could have fired him. Nobody would have questioned it. New owner, restructuring, entirely normal. But I didn't become who I am by making decisions based on pain. I became who I am by making decisions based on principle. Your position is secure, I told him. You are one of the most knowledgeable people in this building about our operations. I would be foolish to lose that. Your job is not in danger. He exhaled, visibly. However, I continued, I want to be transparent with you. This is now my company. The same standards I hold everyone to, I hold you to. Your history here matters. Your future performance matters more. Are we clear? He nodded, and then quietly he said, I didn't know you had this in you. I had heard those words before. Different version. Same meaning. You would have, I said, if you'd looked. He had nothing to say to that. Over the following months, my father was, surprisingly, one of my most valuable team members. Decades of institutional knowledge, genuine expertise. When he wasn't being a father, when he was just being a professional, he was exceptional. We built a working relationship. Careful, professional, respectful. And one evening, staying late on a quarterly report, he knocked on my office door. He sat down across from me, and for the first time in my entire life, my father looked small. Not physically, but in the way people look small when they finally see themselves clearly. I made a lot of mistakes with you, he said. I told myself you didn't need me because it was easier than admitting I wasn't showing up. I removed you from that will because I was angry and I wanted to punish you. And you turned around and built all of this. I am ashamed of who I was to you. I looked at this man, my father, who had shown up twice to my recitals, who had told me I didn't need much from him, who had signed my name off a piece of paper on a Tuesday afternoon. And I said, I know, Dad. I know. I didn't say I forgive you. Not yet. Forgiveness is not a light switch. It is a long, slow process that happens on its own timeline. But I said, I'm glad you finally see it. That's where it starts. My father still works at Hargrove and Associates. He is still exceptional at his job. We have dinner sometimes, real dinners now, not surface-level ones. He has never asked about the will. I have never brought it up. Some things don't need to be relitigated. They just need to be left in the past where they belong. What I want you to take from this is simple. The people who dismiss you, who tell you that you don't need much, who sign your name off papers, who show up twice in 10 years, they are not your ceiling. They are your fuel. Every single time someone told me I wasn't enough, I stored it. Not as pain, as information, as motivation, as the precise measurement of how far I still had to go. I didn't buy that company to hurt my father. I bought it because it was a smart business decision. The fact that he worked there, that was just the universe being poetic. And if you are sitting somewhere right now, dismissed, written off, underestimated, I want you to hear this clearly. The ones who wrote you off will one day sit in a room and watch you run it. Stay patient. Stay building. Stay silent. Let the results speak. Thank you for watching. You already know what to do.